So I've taken a few weeks to try to do this film review, and I've redone it a few times. And it's not because I'm a perfectionist, it's just because this review has been very, very difficult for me to actually write. And I didn't want to just think about this one review. I wanted to think about any review that I would do in the future. This is going to be the first part of a series of Marvel movies and TV shows that I go through and review, tell you my thoughts, give them a rating, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted, when you went back and looked at these later on, for them to feel similar to the current day ones. And so I couldn't figure it out for the longest time, and I think I finally have. So without telling you exactly what I'm going to be doing for this review, you're just going to kind of see how my review style ends up being. We're going to go ahead and get started looking at The Punisher 1989. Now, this movie is not interesting in the least bit. Like, it's somewhat entertaining if you like 80s action style movies, if you like the explosions and all that kind of stuff, but I thought that I would, like, for a Punisher movie, be glued to my seat. I like the old Punisher movie. I forgot the guy who was in it, but the old one, not what was it, Judgment Day or whatever they called the stupid one, but the one before that. I love that movie. That movie was good. This I thought I would like, because I like the Punisher character in general, and I liked how he's portrayed now. I like how he's portrayed in animated TV shows, like when he shows up in Spider-Man. All of that is good. This Punisher is trash. And I'm somebody who's very, very easily entertained. Back when cable was still super, super prevalent and everybody had Dish or DirecTV in their house, if I was bored enough, I would just watch like the cooking channel or the shopping network or the jewelry channel, where they just show the expensive jewelry that not only do I not have the money to buy, I also don't want. I would watch that stuff and still be somewhat entertained. I can finish most movies that I watch just because I want to see where the story is going to end. I want to see how far along we can get. There's very few things that I've started, movies, TV shows, that I end up not finishing. And if I hadn't had to watch this movie, I would have stopped it, because it veers so far away from just the regular story of the Punisher, and it's kind of annoying. Don't get me wrong, if you're somebody that likes 80s style action movies with a bunch of explosions and gunfire and all that kind of stuff, you probably would like this movie. And I don't hate it 100% because of some of those aspects. But I also grew up in a little bit more of a cynical generation where we looked at those movies and we're like, so this guy's just gonna walk through flames and not have it affect him? He's just gonna stand in a burning house that's exploding around him and just stand there looking cool like it's no big deal? He's just gonna tank gunfire? Not in the cool John Wick way, where they tried to explain it, or in the way where like the Punisher gets hit with a gunshot, but he has on a bulletproof vest, but it's still like current day Punisher, but it still knocks the wind out of him and sends him to his back for a second. No, like 80s movies, you would just get shot and just whiff it and just like dodge it and have it not be a big deal. So that kind of stuff always looked like, all right. Like in this movie, the Punisher goes and he's standing in a building that is on fire, that exploded a few seconds ago, and he's just standing there at the front door with smoke going all around him. He's not coughing or choking from smoke inhalation or anything like that. And then the building explodes and he just disappears into the flames somehow. I'm like, they show him in the very next scene, no smoke issues on him, like no smoke on his clothes, not coughing, nothing. And I'm like, so he's just in the fire like it's no big deal. It makes no sense. It's stupid, and it's just over the top. Like I said, it's not the worst thing, but it's definitely 80s style action movie. This movie kind of fell off to me because it really had like three big things going against it. First off, it felt like I said, an 80s style action movie with a Punisher mask on it. Not the iconic Punisher vest that had the skull on it, the white skull. They didn't even include that in the movie. It was just Dolph Lundgren walking around, big 6'4", moody attitude, like not the man who was a military guy who had a good family life and had it all taken away from him and kind of went crazy. No, this is just a man who was a police officer that lost his family and then just turned moody and then just started killing a bunch of gang members, even though he has no experience or skills to do that. It just made no sense. I look at other versions of the Punisher and I see the guy who's struggling mentally but can still have regular things happen in his life. He's not just, some big crybaby crybaby that's just sitting around not doing anything, just going out killing everybody. No, he's a man on a mission, for lack of a better term. Like, he's trying to right the wrongs that were done to him, but he could still function in regular society. This Punisher is like a recluse. He's like living in a sewer. He's not doing anything except for killing people. They don't even show him eating at all in the movie, which isn't necessary, but that's something you think of, like, okay, how is he eating? Somehow he's able to do things though that make no sense. He's able to get money so he can buy alcohol so he can give it to his informant, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. He's able to somehow have money to buy food because he obviously is still alive, so he eats something. He's able to somehow have money to buy gas. He has a motorcycle that he rides in and out of the sewer all the time, so he's able to get money somehow. But how? Is he stealing the money? Then he's no better than the criminals he's putting away. Like, what's going on with all this? And the thing that really bugged me in this movie was that he's been living underground for 5 years. And my thought is, they showed him in the movie getting blown up while near a car. They show his family getting blown up while in a car. So he's in a car. That means he's not near his house. What happened to his house? You tell me that his family was living out of the car, and then once that happens, he just has to go underground? That makes no sense. Bro, where's my water? So I kind of skipped over the points I was making, but the second thing that this movie had going against it, aside from the fact that it didn't feel like a Punisher movie, Dolph Lundgren never really felt like the Punisher. He just felt like this big 6'4" monster that was going around killing everybody, barely talking, no charisma, no anything. He was just going around killing a bunch of people, and they said, yes, that's the Punisher. It didn't feel like he was the Punisher at any point in this movie, at least in my opinion. The third thing this has going against it is that they changed so much of how the Punisher story is, and it made no sense for them to change it at all. Here's the major points that they changed. They changed his sidekick. His sidekick in the comics and in other movies and in the live action Marvel Netflix show and in the animated series that, you know, he's been in, like Spider-Man or whatever, his sidekick is Chip or Microchip or Micro, like some version of one of those. A computer genius that helps him get a lot of stuff, helps him hack, helps him come up with weapons, all that kind of stuff. That's his sidekick. In this movie, his sidekick is a random homeless drunk called Shake that hangs around bars, somehow finds information about the mob and other things going on in the city and the fact that the Yakuza is in town and all that kind of stuff. Somehow is able to find all this information hanging around bars, pretending to be like a begging drunk, which he kind of is, and then he gets paid in alcohol. And I'm like, that makes Dolph Lundgren's Punisher that much more unlikable if he's like going and actively paying this clearly homeless guy in alcohol to get information. Another thing they changed is the name of his family. His family, from everywhere that I've ever seen anything about the Punisher story, his family has always been his wife Maria, his son Frank Jr., and then his daughter Lisa. That's been their names. Every single place that I've seen them, that's been their names. So in this movie, his wife is not Maria. His wife is Julie, and then he has two daughters, Felice and Annie. And I only know this because I looked it up, because they don't mention their names in the movie at all, but they, for some reason, felt like they needed to give them different names than the comics. You know what this felt like? This felt like Marvel greenlit a Punisher movie, told a studio to go and make it. The studio read like one comic book, or watched one movie or a TV show or something. He had like the minimal amount of information that he needed to think like, okay, the Punisher lost his family, he goes and kills a bunch of gang members, and that's it. And they knew he had 3 family members, and they were like, okay, we got to give names to these people. Let's not go and like read the comics or look up information and figure out what his kids and his wife's name were. No, we'll just give them random names. His wife can be Julie, and Felicia and Annie, they sound like good names for his kids. And that makes no sense at all, because it just completely goes away from his actual story. Like the Spider-Man movies that I've seen, which they've made a lot of Spider-Man movies, they never go and say like, okay, yeah, this Spider-Man, you know, who we're going to pretend is the real Spider-Man, we're going to call him, you know, John Frank. They don't do that. He's Peter Parker. They don't try to say, yeah, his Uncle Smith and, you know, Aunt Jackie or something. They don't do anything stupid like that, like Uncle Ben, Aunt May. They keep the names the same because they are the names that are connected to his story, and it doesn't make sense to change them. Even if you change everything else around it. There have been some Spider-Man showings, movies, TV shows, comics, animated shows, whatever, that have been horrible, but they don't change the basics. Uncle Ben Wayne, Aunt May, Flash Thompson, Felicia Hardy, Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, Rhino, Dr. Octopus, like all that stuff is the same. So to randomly change his sidekick and make his sidekick Shake, and then to change his family's names for no reason, and his sidekick and his family were not mentioned by name at all in this movie, which means they could have easily, if there was no reason to have their names be different, they could have easily put something different as their name. Even if you just said the guy's name was Micro, even if he acted nothing like Micro, I would have been like, all right, fine. If you had said his family's name was Frank Jr., Lisa, and then Maria, I would have had no issue with that. But changing their names seemed stupid and meaningless. The third biggest thing that this movie had going against it is another thing about the Punisher story, about the background, and it is that the Punisher's not a military guy. He's not a military guy in this movie. He's just a cop. In every version of it, he's been like a high-ranking military guy or a military guy who's been on these super secret missions, reconnaissance, special ops, something. U.S. Marine, proud of it. They made him a cop, and not even like a cop with a ton of background in, undercover work and in, I don't know, SWAT or something. Give him something where it explains how he's so good with weapons. It explains how he's so good with getting in and out of places without being seen, with being able to kill 125 people over 5 years without being seen by anybody, without being caught, without the police finding him. Another thing, most serial killers never dip into double-digit killings. So how is this guy, they get caught beforehand or they mess up and die? How is it that this guy is able to kill 125 people over 5 years with zero military experience and not get caught? If I was a cop after 3 killings, I would just have a police unit sit at every single place where there was going to be high-ranking gangland members, people from the mob or whatever else just roaming around. I would have them just sit. I would even tell the mob, hey, you guys have been getting killed. We're just going to have an officer sit with you. He's not going to arrest you for anything. He's not going to do anything like that. He's just going to sit here. And if Castle comes over, he's going to deal with them. That would have been great. Oh, and another thing. Frank Castle lives in a sewer and he drives a motorcycle, which means he's having to take this motorcycle in and out of the sewer for 5 years. Nobody ever sees him taking this big motorcycle in and out of the sewer. He never gets pulled over by a cop and has, cops love pulling over people with motorcycles. Never gets pulled over by a cop and gets asked, hey, what's going on? Nothing. He registers his bike because he's on the road all the time. He would have gotten pulled over by now if he hadn't. And I know I'm looking too much into it, but just certain things in the movie just made no sense. And it made me question other things. And then on the subject of his motorcycle, this guy lives in a sewer. He takes his motorcycle in and out of the sewer. And he's lived in the sewer for the last 5 years. Nobody's been able to find him. But randomly, the new detective who's working the case has somehow been able to find that he lives in the sewer. Somehow she's been able to clock that. And then her, Detective Sam, and Lieutenant Berkowitz, who Berkowitz was Frank Castle's old police partner, because remember, he's a cop, not a military guy. He's his old police partner. Somehow they go to the sewer, look for him, have a conversation about him, never find him, give up, and then just leave. This movie is irritating, man. It's so irritating. So just because I want to, I'll give you a quick rundown of how this movie goes. They start the movie off and they're talking on the news about Frank Castle having killed 125 gang members. Frank Castle then kills another 4 gang members, and then they show him in the sewer. Then all of a sudden you see another gang member coming in, Gianni Franco. He's coming in town to head the Franco crime family. Then the Franco crime family decides they want to be friends with all the other mob families in the city. So they decide, okay, we're going to try to bring in a big shipment of drugs, 500 million or something like that, and split it between everybody so that we can all just get along and everything like that. They get ready to do that, but then the Yakuza randomly is at the docks waiting for them and, intercepts things. And Frank Castle is there and he intercepts things. There's a big gunfight and the Yakuza tries to take the drugs in a van and try to leave. And Frank Castle stabs the driver, causes the van to crash. They shoot at Frank Castle. He doesn't die, obviously. And that happens. And then the Yakuza meets up with the Franco crime family and they say, hey, we want to work together, but we want 75% of the proceeds. The Franco crime family says no. The Yakuza kidnaps all the Franco crime family kids. The Franco crime family, everyone except for Gianni, wants to go pay the ransom. They go pay the ransom. They all get killed by the Yakuza. Then Gianni Franco still doesn't have his son back. For some stupid reason, Frank Castle allows Shake to convince him to go and save these kids. He goes and gets all the kids, but he's not able to rescue Tommy Franco, who's Gianni Franco's son. And then he turns them all into the cops. The cops arrest him. While he's in transport, Gianni Franco breaks him out. And he says, hey, basically, you're going to help me get my kid back, or I'm going to kill your former partner, Lieutenant Berkowitz. They go to the Yakuza place. They kill so many Yakuza ninjas. And then they save his son. And then his son and Gianni, they embrace each other. And they get ready to walk out. And then stupidly, Gianni Franco tries to kill Frank Castle. Frank Castle reverses it, shoots him in the chest, kills him. And now the kid is left without a dad. And then Frank Castle just disappears, and they end the movie with a shot of Dolph Lundgren's backside on camera as they zoom into the back of his head for no reason. This movie is stupid. This movie is stupid. So I'm running out of space on my phone, so really quickly I'm gonna go through my rankings. I rank these movies based off of 7 different metrics. I do entertainment, I do characters, I do villains, action, pacing, ending, and something else that I don't see on here real quick, but we're gonna go over it real quick. So for entertainment, I gave it a 5. It's based on my own opinion, but obviously I think that if this was not a Punisher movie, if this was just a regular movie, it was just a regular 80s style action movie, it'd be decent. Ridiculous, but decent. So a 5 I think is fine. Story, I give it a 2. It's by far the worst thing in the movie. The story made absolutely no sense. Characters, I would also give a 2, but I'm thinking of giving it a 3, just because there was like a couple characters that weren't the worst. Shake wasn't the worst character. He was actually kind of funny for what he was. Like, he wasn't a funny character, but the concept of a homeless drunk that's somehow able to find this great information in exchange for booze is for some reason funny to me. The villains though, I give the villains a 1. Their motivations were stupid. They died for no reason. They made absolutely no sense. And like I feel like I could have succeeded in this movie if I was the Punisher against these villains, and I have no training. These villains were horrible. And on top of the villains being bad, think about Dino Moretti. He's the first person that died in this movie, on screen at least. He was coming out of jail, knows that the Punisher's after him, knows that he should be watching his back, has 3 guards guarding him, but then they don't guard him when he goes to his house. They are somewhere else while he goes to get a drink. He has no surveillance cameras on his house to monitor when anybody comes in. His house isn't fully decked out with all the latest security to make sure nobody gets in. And then he gets killed because he's not prepared, while he knows that a guy who just killed 125 other members of your crime family is out there trying to kill you also. It makes no sense. The action, I'll give a 5. The same reason as entertainment. It's just an 80s action movie. It's not the worst thing. If I want to be cynical, I can, but I think a 5 is fine for this. The pacing, I would actually give a 1. This movie is just all over the place, and it felt like the plot moved along a little bit too fast, and it also seemed like a very long movie at the same time. Like a fast plot that never ended. And then the ending, I will give the ending a 2. It was just dumb. It didn't feel satisfying at all. It felt completely rushed, and it kind of just felt like they just ended it just to end it. So 2.7 out of 10 stars, everything added up and rounded out to a 4 out of 10. 2.7 out of 10 stars is what this movie gets. Very, very low. Do I think another movie will get lower? Possibly. I think the next movie I'm going to be watching is the Fantastic Four movie from, I think, 1990. So that movie may get worse. Who knows? But anyway, I will see you guys in the next movie review, and we'll keep going through all of these Marvel movies. I think there's like over 100 of them, so it's going to be a while.